It's all about you. It's all about you, baby. This podcast is sponsored and supported by 365daysofbreastcancer.com. Speaking to Carol Scott today was a privilege. Carol is Radiotherapy Services Manager at the Churchill Hospital in Oxford. They were exceptional during my treatment, and it was a real treat for me to return and learn from what she said. There were just a few points I wanted to pick up on during her interview or chat with me. The first one was, what is great to acknowledge here is not just in Carol's life, but I'm sure in your own too, is how everything you've done in years gone by, that's not just your successes, but your failures and mistakes too, probably especially those, contributes to the experience and knowledge you can bring to your life and the lives of others too, where you're at right now. And rather than feeling bad or ashamed of your wrongdoings or whatever it is that's gone on in your life, you can flip them over and make real good use of them. In Carol's case, she was simply listening and learning from her contemporaries on how to bring the best service she could to this amazing facility in Oxford. The second point I loved hearing from Carol was the level of care that filters down from the top. She was too modest to say that, so I'm quite happy to say it for her. But what she did say was the service starts from reception and it filters through the whole department. They have really thought about their customer journey at the Radiotherapy Department, and it's in great depth that they go to, which is something probably every business could learn from. So if you're running a business out there or are responsible for a customer journey of any kind, I hope this makes you think about what you're delivering and inspire you to dismantle what you are doing now and probably or possibly or try to rebuild an improved route for your customers. There's always room for improvement on our delivery. And finally, this podcast is called It's All About You for a reason. And when you're going through a tough time, it's vital that you place yourself first. We find it hard to do that, and sometimes when you do manage to put your own oxygen mask on first, there are people wanting to take that away from you. So what is particularly wonderful about Carol's team at the Churchill Hospital is that they reinforce that and ensure that you are not only cared for, but that you care for yourself too. And that, my friends, is really what it's all about. And welcome, Carol, to It's All About You, the podcast.
Thank you.
So we're sat here at the Radiotherapy Department in the Churchill at Oxford, where I came for treatment, and I knew I was going to come back and speak to you because of the exceptional treatment that I received while I was here. And just wondered if you could give us a bit more insight into this magnificent team that you run. Can you, first of all, though, give us a little bit of insight into your background and what brought you here to the Churchill in the first place?
Yeah, of course. So I'm a therapeutic radiographer, and I qualified in the 1980s, and I worked mainly as a clinical radiographer for most of my career, but I have dipped in and out and done a few other things as well. So I worked for 20 years in London at three different hospitals in London, which was great experience.
Yeah.
And then I got the opportunity to work for the Department of Health for a while. So I went and moved into the Department of Health. That was slightly alarming because I had to call myself a civil servant. I wasn't allowed to call myself a therapeutic radiographer in that role.
Okay.
Even though I kept my registration through all of that period. As part of that job, I was able to visit the majority of radiotherapy departments in the UK, actually. Part of my role was to do inspections against the regulations that we use to manage safely the ionising radiation that's used for treatment. So it was a great opportunity to go and have a good nosy around
and see what everyone was doing,
and see what other people were doing, see what really good practice was out there. I decided to go back into clinical practice in 2007. I went to work in Cheltenham as the Radiotherapy Services Manager. So I spent 9 years in Cheltenham, both managing the Radiotherapy Department. I was very fortunate to be in a position to be leading on the building of a satellite unit that we opened in Hereford, which meant that patients coming from Herefordshire and Powys didn't have to travel all the way to Cheltenham every day for treatment, because it's a hugely long journey on rural roads, really difficult. When you're feeling ill, the last thing you want is sort of 4 hours in the car as well. And it's not very often in the NHS you actually get to build something from the ground up, so that was really exciting. The opportunity arose in 2016 to apply for the job here in Oxford, again as Radiotherapy Service Manager, but this is a bigger department. We have links with the university, there's considerably more research and a lot of the more advanced radiotherapy that we deliver here that's not delivered in every centre in the UK. So I started here in January 2017.
It's a fantastic centre, isn't it?
I was very lucky. My predecessor in this post actually was involved in the design of the cancer centre and the radiotherapy department specifically, and so this is a purpose-built department which is becoming more common now in the UK, but actually a lot of radiotherapy departments are sort of tucked away in the basements.
Some grubby underground situation.
Very little natural daylight and not a lot of space, and things have been sort of squeezed in.
I think when I came for radiotherapy, that's what I was expecting. I'd never been up here before, so it was quite a massive, pleasant surprise, because it is a superb facility.
And I think the environment makes a big difference.
It really
to
does,
how people feel as well. So if you've got natural daylight, and it's really nice for the radiographers here when they're working on the treatment machines, they've got daylight, they can see what the weather's doing, they can hear the rain on the atrium roof, and they can still experience the sunshine, and it just helps you feel more engaged, I think.
And we all love talking about the weather, so that's that's a good thing.
So they've got a heads up, and they've got something to talk about when you go down to have your treatment. So this is a great department. It's been really well designed and purpose built for a modern radiotherapy service, which the facilities really help and the environment really helps.
I think
so we're very lucky.
I can definitely say on the other side of that, I felt that firsthand, and that's exactly right.
And it's spacious and it's open, and you don't feel as though, yes, we are, we've outgrown our space now. The cancer centre's been open for 10 years, but it still doesn't feel like an old Victorian basement.
No, it doesn't. It's really nice and modern, and it's weirdly a pleasant environment to be in. Yeah. And to me, the level of care and empathy when you walk in here, I felt very keenly from everybody that I encountered. And it was a huge surprise. I thought I'd be hustled in, because it's a busy department, isn't it?
Yes, it's busy.
It is. And it's non-stop. There's non-stop people turning up, and, I just find it astonishing. I'm really keen to know how that's achieved, because being empathetic with somebody isn't something you can teach people particularly. It's either something you've got or you've not. So I just wonder how you've got that level of care by everybody that certainly I met. It was astonishing.
I think it's hard to put your finger on one particular thing that makes the atmosphere feel like that. I think we're fortunate to have. We work in a multidisciplinary team, so it's therapeutic radiographers, we have our assistants, we have our admin staff, we have physicists and the medical staff as well. So we very much work as a team to look after patients, and I think it starts right from the front door. So the reception staff are exceptional.
Lovely, yeah.
Absolutely.
I experienced that today as well, yeah.
They are exceptional, and their patience and their ability to, they remember people, they recognise people. You're not just another face that's coming through the door. They can start to put names to faces as well, and they're really good at doing that. They don't come through a professional training, so I suppose to some degree it's about making sure that we attract the right kind of people with the way that we advertise those kind of jobs, and give them the skills that they need from a practical point of view, but also encouraging people and giving them the time to actually, I suppose they've got a natural ability, those individuals that we've appointed. They're comfortable talking to strangers.
It's the level of care, isn't it?
They're comfortable helping people. They naturally want to help people.
They can step into that space.
It's in their nature.
Yeah.
And they're also very confident that if they don't know how to deal with something, they'll find someone who will.
Yeah.
And they're not the kind of people who will just drop something because it's too difficult or too hard. So some of it's about how you recruit people, and you have to give people who are interested in that job a good idea of the whole service as well. So they don't just understand what happens on reception, they understand what goes on when
behind
patients go down to
the
the waiting room, what happens in pre-treatment, what happens at treatment. So they understand the pathway that the patients are going to go through when they come into the department, which gives them the ability to answer questions as well. So they don't just take people in at reception or give out appointments. They can provide advice and support. They can help with people who've got questions. They're also able to recognise when people are in distress, or whether they have got a particular issue that they need help with, and every single one of them just goes the extra mile.
They do.
Which is brilliant.
It is. I think that's a great way to put it. They do go the extra mile, even when you don't ask them to. And we were chatting earlier, for me, this podcast is all about helping people through a traumatic time to come out a greater version of themselves, and the treatment and care and the attention that you get when you're going through radiotherapy here allows you to do that. It just underpins you to find some energy for yourself to continue on, and either go home and rest peacefully or whatever it is you've got to do, but without that attention and care, if it was a chuck you in and chuck you out experience, it would just become even harder. And the fact that you get that is priceless. It is, really.
And the radiographers approach every person who comes through the door as an individual, and they do have to start off by asking us, sort of a predictable list of questions that they ask everybody, but they don't just take a note of the answers. They're listening to what people are saying.
I'm glad you've said that. They do. They listen really hard. Yeah, they do. And
they really respond as well. So where my office is here, I sit with the door open sometimes, and the first visit, people come through for their CT scan, their imaging. What we do now with everybody is on their first visit, we take their height and their weight. Those scales and the height scale are just to the left of my office, and already at that point the radiographers have been listening to what the patients have said, even on the sort of 20 paces from the waiting room through to the scales, and they've started to tailor their conversation to the responses that are coming back from the person they're talking to. So it's not just a tick list of them doing things they need to do to get you onto the next stage. They're starting to get to know you as a person. Yeah. And that follows all the way through, and particularly with the radiographers that you see day after day on treatment, they're getting to know you as an individual. They're getting to understand if you don't like something, or if you prefer something to be different, and they'll do as much as they can to tailor the experience to meet your needs as they possibly can. So yes, they have to do the same thing technically every day to give you your treatment in exactly the same way every single day, but they're looking at you as an individual. They ask you how you are every day, but that's not just as a courtesy.
No, they listen to your reply.
It's a genuine need to understand how you are.
Yeah.
And the more experienced you are as a therapeutic radiographer, the more you're able to pick up on subtle changes in somebody's mood or their responses. If they're less responsive one day particularly, it may be that somebody's got something on their mind. You've got a bit of time to explore that with them whilst you're setting them up for treatment. You can perhaps give them the opportunity to talk about it afterwards. And I think time is one of the key things here. That
I agree. I think I experienced everything that you've just said. I came in upset a couple of days. There was a lady in reception upset me. I walked past and she was on the phone to somebody, and I heard her say, "I feel like I'm a medical experiment." I thought, oh, so do I. And so I turned round and said, "Are you okay?" Because she was crying her eyes out. She went, "Yeah, I've got somebody on the end of the phone, thank you." And I walked off. And then just burst into tears because I thought, gosh, that's exactly how I feel. Mm-hmm. By the time I'd got to your guys down here, I was trying to hold it together, and I thought I'd done a good job. And I walked in there, and somebody asked me something lovely, and off I went again. But they told me off, and in a lovely way, and totally and utterly put the it was kind of metaphorical arms around you, really, to just say, look, you've got to take care of yourself here. And make sure that you're okay. We'll look after the other people. You look after you. And that was just what I needed at the time. And it was a very different approach to like a time before when I'd been crying over something, and they just looked after me and been really kind and caring. But they knew the difference and were prepared to deliver it. And that blew me away, actually, looking back on it.
I think the other thing is they're prepared to have fun with people as
well.
Yeah,
they are as well. They were having a bake-off actually one day when I came in.
But it's a fine line between having fun and then being unprofessional. But they know what that boundary is. And
they do.
And it's different with different individuals as well. So some patients will want to laugh and a joke, and there'll be as much banter coming backwards and forwards from patients as the staff. Yeah. But the staff have a banter with each other as well. It's very much a team effort. So people look after each other. So in the same way that they're intuitive to perhaps a patient feeling down or distressed or unwell about something, they recognise that in each other as well and support each other as a team. So we're fortunate, I suppose, as a group of healthcare professionals that we actually never or rarely work on our own. We're actually working with a team supporting us as well.
I think you work in such a hard environment in a lot of ways, that to have that team around you must be a wonderful experience too, because it'd be too difficult to work as a professional in this environment if you didn't have that, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we do have times that are distressing, and the staff feel it
keenly. I'm sure they do.
But equally, we look out for that and help and give support or they will support each other through that. And actually what makes the job really rewarding, and that was always my experience when I was working clinically, is actually, somebody gets to the end of their treatment and they've not just survived their treatment, but they actually walk out feeling as though, for all of the negativity around the reasons why they came here, it's actually been a really positive experience.
I agree. It's the weird thing to say.
People have looked after them.
They did. I can vouch for that.
And for me, the biggest reward was always somebody leaving on their last day with a smile on their face.
Yeah.
Yes, a huge sense of relief.
Yeah.
Mostly around not having to drive here and do the
and
parking
the car park,
anymore. Lots of that. But equally the fact that they'd moved through this really difficult phase.
Yeah.
And there was a sense of positivity about the future.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's really lovely because, nobody wants to have radiotherapy, let's be honest, but I didn't find it a toil. It was done with such care that you just moved through it, and everybody, you found that you'd have a reasonable time when you were here, which was a bit of a surprise to me because I wasn't looking forward to it. But dare I say, I didn't enjoy having radiotherapy, but I enjoyed being with your team. It made it so much easier, yeah.
There's a bit of camaraderie, isn't
there? There is, yeah.
And also with other patients, if you're often, particularly a lot of the gentlemen tend to find that they've got to do a lot of preparation before treatments. They have to be here for an hour before treatment, so their bladder's full, etc. Yeah. So you get the same group of people coming every day. Yeah. And we actually have a group of gentlemen who all finished treatment about 5 years ago. But they would meet every morning and they'd all have to drink the same amount of water. So they've now called themselves the Water Boys. And they meet on a quarterly basis and go out for a pub lunch with their wives as well. Partners. So they've actually now, they've got a good support group outside of their radiotherapy as well. And that's been ongoing for about 5 years now.
Really nice.
And they pop in and see us. I think one of the most difficult things for therapeutic radiographers is that we love to know how well people are doing after they've had their treatment, and if people want to pop in when they come back for a clinic appointment, we're always delighted to see them. I think a lot of people want to just draw a line when they've finished their treatment. They probably don't want to come in. One of the things perhaps we could do more of is actually allow the radiographers to go to some of the follow-up clinics so that they could actually see people. Yeah. But they absolutely love to see people coming back looking completely different in a lot of cases because their hair's grown back, or they're not tired and fatigued, but they're back in bouncing with. Yeah, well, and an extra stone and a half in my case to boot. But I was determined to come back. I knew I was going to do that. I didn't know it was going to be with a podcast, to be fair, but to say thank you to you and your team underneath you, because they're exceptional and it mattered a lot. And it embodies what I'm trying to do here, which is pull people into a greater space, and that's amazing that you offer that while you're having treatment and understand it to such a deep level. I found that exceptional. It was wonderful. I'm very fortunate to work with an extremely good team. Yeah. Probably 50% of them were here when I first arrived in 2017. But I think the ethos amongst those staff and the sort of the standards I bring for myself and like to see in others as well were here in spades before I got here. Nice. So I was able to build on what was already here.
You had a good foundation.
It's not all down to me. I'm incredibly lucky to have a really, really good team, and I'm incredibly proud to work with them as well.
Yeah, and I can completely see that you would be, and I just want to say thank you so much for doing this podcast with me. I just feel the underpinning of people and helping people understand to take care of themselves is absolutely vital. It helps your mental capacity as well, which I think can just slide down a very slippery slope when you're going through awful treatment, and they didn't allow that to happen. And I said to you earlier that a lot of people said to me, you're going to fight this, going to fight it, Deborah, and I didn't ever feel that. I felt like my body would work and I would work with it always, but I fought for my mental clarity, which takes a real battering. And I know that I'm not the only one. So to come into a unit like this, undergoing some of the toughest treatment you're going to probably hopefully have in the whole of your life, and be supported was enormous. It enables you to move on in a healthy way mentally, which is vital, I think.
I think one of the things that the team do is actually keep reminding you you can put yourself first, and people have all sorts of other challenges going on in their life, but to come out of this the other side with a sense of positivity about the future
is amazing.
You do need to be given permission on a regular basis. So a lot of us are very hard on ourselves, and we've got so many other things that we think we should be taking care of as well. And actually just to be reminded, or to be put at the centre of the attention, which is I think what the radiographers do a lot, all the time. They make you the centre of their attention for the time that you're with them, that's for as long as it needs to be. It's not just for the 15 minutes of your appointment slot. If you need more time, they're there and they'll give you more time. And if you need less time, they're fine with that. Fine with that as well. There's no pressure.
Well, I think I've certainly learned this year to put my own oxygen mask on first and fill yourself up, because the bit that runs over is what you can give to everybody else. But if you're operating on a quarter of a glass or whatever it is, you've no chance.
No.
So thank you very much. Thanks to your wonderful team, and may your brilliant work continue.
Well, we hope to see a lot more people leaving with the same positive attitude that you've got. And if you've got time to pop down and see any of them today, that would be great.
That's lovely. Thanks so much, Carol.
Love to see you.
Thank you. If you like this podcast, like it, comment on it, or share it. Thank you. It's all about you.